Meeting of October 9th, 2024. City Clerk, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Lamb? Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Councilmember Gregory? Mayor Pro Tem Ross? Mayor Pro Tem Ross is absent. Is this an excused absence? Well, the city attorney asked if I would.
It's an excused absence. I'm sorry?
So I thought that issue has come up,
Talk in your microphone.
and there's nothing in our code that says excused or not.
It's on the other side.
I gotta turn it on first, though.
Okay.
I got you, Councilmember Gregory. Go ahead.
I was going to say that there's a time clock that starts under the government code if an absence isn't indicated that it's excused. And if we know that there's a legitimate reason for the absence.
Louder if you don't mind.
If we know that there's a legitimate reason for the absence, they're out of town, they're traveling, they're sick, they have something, other instance to do, it's generally customary to indicate for the record that that absence is excused so that that time clock doesn't run. You're not obligated to do that. It's just a suggestion that I gave to the city clerk.
And does that apply to commissions and committees also? Does that apply to commissions and committees also?
No, it only applies to elected officials. Now,
Okay.
if-
Could you maybe provide us a brief on that? Because we went through this issue a couple of years back, and because we were routinely excusing and not excusing, and we were told by legal counsel, I believe at the time, that there was nothing in our code that asked whether a council member was excused or not excused, and we actually removed the ability for commissioners to do that because they do have something in the code that says they can only miss so many meetings, and they were excusing, but there was nothing in the code that allowed them to excuse each other. So if maybe we could brief that topic and have it on the
This
agenda.
only has to do with a provision in the government code that indicates that if a council member is absent, unexcused from their seat for 60 continuous days, that they can lose that seat. So
Okay, I'm not aware of that. If you could please brief us on it either.
I'd be happy to give you a memo on that, yeah. And I'll review the city's policies as well to
Okay, thank you.
indicate what they
Thank you,
say.
Mayor, sorry.
Oh, thank you. City Clerk, would you please read this? Oh, yeah, is there any changes in the study session agenda? Charlie?
I have no changes, Mayor.
Thank you. City Clerk, would you please read the statement of participation?
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you are a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the City Clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the City Council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the City Clerk for distribution. I do have one member of the public that wishes to provide public comment. Mr. McCormick?
Good evening, City Council. Seeing that the mayor's not here, I'm obviously ain't going to say good evening, Mayor. Oh, the mayor is here. Well, who wasn't here?
Mayor Pro Tem Ross.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem. Oh, okay. So, good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Excuse my mistake. I want to say two things, one official, one unofficial. Officially, as a Marine, because I am a decorated United States Marine Corps veteran, and in the corporate offices of white-collar jobs, I was trained that it is better to err on caution than to assume or to err and not on caution, meaning that you never put your troops in harm's way. If you're going to err, you're going to err on caution. I have no idea whether I need to be in this meeting or not. I submitted documents And I know that they have been officially in the system. So I guess I'm here because of my ignorance. I don't know if it's better for me to be here or not be here, even though the documents have been submitted. So I would rather err on the side of caution and double down and triple down and quadruple down and say, now those documents are more official and hopefully more important than they would have been had I not been here. Unofficially, what I would like to ask is a question. Why is it that the white-collar professionals in this country have a smug, disconnected, and uncaring disregard of the bottom two-thirds of the population? We go to doctors, we see counsel in terms of lawyers, we go to accountants, we go to all kinds of white-collar professionals, and there's always a disconnect. Why is that? They don't connect with us as American citizens. They don't connect with us as being community, being in their communities. They don't connect with us as human beings. They absolutely have no connection with us whatsoever. I only ask that rhetorically if you wish to explore it within your mindset. But there is an absolute disconnect. I'm 64 years old and have experienced this my entire life. And I have not only discussed it with other people of my demographics, I even told my psychotherapist, who I had of 25 years. Her response was extremely short and an unacceptable answer to me. But she grew up in that demographic also, that upper white class, white-collar professional class. I ask that as a question for all of y'all, if you wish to explore it within yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
I don't have any other request to speak forms at this time, and I believe those that are in the council chambers is our next presenter.
Thank you. 3A, Food Bank Presentation. Debbie Espinoza, President and CEO. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to say other than I was going to introduce our speaker, who is Debbie Espinoza, President and CEO of Find Food Bank. Find Food Bank is a partner of the cities. They help us with our requirements to meet SB 1383. And so I don't know if that's part of the presentation or not, but Ms. Espinoza is here to give you some information on Find Food Bank.
Thank you all so much for having me today, Mayor, City Council members, Cathedral City community members. Again, my name is Debbie Espinoza, and I'm the President and CEO of Find Food Bank. Every year, I try to come out to all of the cities to be able to try to give the state of hunger for each one of the cities, so our council members and our community are always aware, not just what's going on in the entire Coachella Valley and Desert region, but what's specifically going on in your city when it comes to people that are food insecure. But in addition to that, what I also like to do is thank all of the cities at the same time, because Find Food Bank in the cities throughout this region have partnered so well together in so many different and creative ways, and Cathedral City is one of them. We're going to talk about SB 1383, but what I'd also like to talk about are all of the other areas of engagement that Cathedral City has had over the years, the many years with Find Food Bank. To be able to show how working together can make a huge difference for your community and the people that you represent. We have handed out to you the fact sheet, and this is just showing you the statistical facts of what we've done together in this last year. Through the last studies, through Feeding America's Map the Meal Gap, 13% of the Cathedral City residents are facing food insecurity. Our annual client engagements that we have here in Cathedral City, so sometimes there's people that are coming back to us multiple times. I know that you know what your population numbers are, but we've had over 46,000 client engagements in this past year through Find Food Bank and our partner agencies. This includes people that are coming to the community mobile markets. We have one of them here. There's 6,766 unduplicated individuals that are coming to our community mobile market, as well as the other residents that are served throughout the Coachella Valley, because sometimes they don't come to the one here in Cathedral City. They're accessing the ones that's closer to where they work, which may or may not be in Cathedral City. So another 19,445 have been going to those. In addition to that, Find Food Bank supplies anywhere between 75 to 100% of the food supplies at the local pantries. There's over 100 of them here in the Coachella Valley Desert region, and 7 of them are located in Cathedral City. So we supply those pantries with almost 100% of their total food supply that they are handing out. So not only do we make sure that individuals are secure, we make sure that the nonprofit organizations are secure with having the resources that they need for the clients that they are serving to as well. And then what we love to show is the amount of volunteers that are also residing in Cathedral City. You have 514 people represented as volunteers of Find Food Bank that come and help us pack and annually distribute almost 20 million pounds of food in order for us to be able to serve this area. So you should be very, very proud of your residents here in Cathedral City, including your city and your city council members. Rita has come many times to the Find Food Bank facilities to be able to help us with telethon, to be able to volunteer along with other city council members as well as city staff. So we're very thankful for that. When you look at the annual food distribution in Cathedral City alone, out of that almost 20 million pounds, about 2 million pounds are allocated here to Cathedral City to make sure that people know where their next meal is coming from. Find Food Bank also extends out past just feeding people. We have outreach services that are working with people to be able to access CalFresh. The CalFresh program is the government benefit that people who qualify receive government aid to be able to go and actually purchase food themselves. So it's not just receiving food from Find Food Bank, but it's allowing them to have choices for their own family at the grocery stores for whatever is culturally appropriate and what they need to be able to have the cooking and the health and nutrition that is something that they want to be able to give to their own family. We also do work with unemployment. We also do work with disability, rental assistance, and one of our newest programs that we have launched is actually our Senior Box program, where we're doing outreach services, and we have one of the largest government programs that are that's federally funded to be able to serve seniors, low-income seniors, with senior-specific foods. And many of those are homebound clients too as well. In fact, we deliver to 31 people in Cathedral City who are not able to go out and make it to their lines. In addition to that, we provide outreach services to them. And then finally, we have our Youth Advisory Council and our Youth Opportunity Bank programs, where we're starting to teach youth how to be able to feed themselves. So it's the root causal work. We're trying to break poverty and hunger cycles by allowing youth to be able to learn those valuable skill sets that they need in order to be able to rely on themselves. The leadership development programs, the professional development programs, the financial literacy programs, many of the youth that are coming through our programs now, they not only help us learn how to feed people and understand food insecurity, they're also taking youth development programs with us too to help them break their own poverty cycles. We have one student that received an $800 Find Food Bank scholarship here in Cathedral City that helped them take care of extracurricular activity expenses that helped them gain leadership skills, team working skills, and those other valuable skills that I just named. And then in addition to that, the SB 1383 partnership. So Find Food Bank has always been rescuing food at the grocery stores, but as many of you know, CalRecycle, about 3 years ago, instated SB 1383, where now the jurisdictions are required to be involved with food rescue too as well and have the reporting requirements, and to ensure that the city has a really foundational and functional plan of making sure food gets diverted. Well, because the city has always had a wonderful partnership with Find Food Bank, they knew we were rescuing food already, but it was a matter of making sure that the rest of the components that were required by the jurisdictions be met. So Find Food Bank does that on behalf of Cathedral City and this new SB 1383 partnership that we do. the reporting standards, the auditing standards, all of those things, Cathedral City has met with flying colors with regards to the CalRecycle program. There's 6 retailers, there's 4 restaurants that are enrolled in the program that are part of this requirement, and since the inception of the program and us partnering together since the beginning of this year, we've already reported almost 160,000 pounds of diversion from going to landfill to people that are in need through the programs that I just named. So I want to be able to share those statistics with you. You have them, but I also want to be able to answer any questions that you may have for me about what it is that FIND does and the state of hunger in your city.
Senior speaker.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't sure. I apologize. Oh, no, was that you? I couldn't tell who was that in the picture. Oh, thank you so much, Councilmember Gutierrez. I appreciate that. I was not there at the time that you all came. I mean, I know Councilmember Lamb was not able to make it this year, but she has come in other years. But thank you so much for being there. Hopefully you had
Very
an
welcome.
enjoyable experience.
I was happy to do it.
Very good. Was there anything surprise? Was that the first time you were at the
That
food
was
bank?
my first time, and it won't be the last. I was really surprised how large your facility is, and you're having an expansion right next door. We were told that there's going to be also a pretty large expansion that is happening at this point, but I'm definitely going to be going back to help and volunteer.
We would love to have you back. We would love to have all of you. Specifically to that expansion, FIND Food Bank actually broke ground at the beginning of this year. Our current food bank, so what you may not know is FIND Food Bank, our first food bank was actually here in Cathedral City. So our roots go all the way back. That's why we've been partnering together for so many years, since 1983, actually.
You were on Perez, weren't you?
Yes.
On Perez.
And then when that food bank unfortunately had a fire, fortunately the communities came together, including the cities, and saw that maybe that the need was greater than what the facility here could hold, and they moved the location out to the city of Indio so we could have more of an expansive warehouse. Well, they built a 38,000 square foot facility back in 2008 and 9. And because of community growth, but because of also our understanding of what food insecurity is and the amount of our neighbors that are being affected, it was important for FIND to continue to expand our work, as well as we are the regional disaster food bank too, as well as you saw during the time of the tropical storm. Our ability, and during the time of COVID, our ability to be able to respond fast and to be able to take in federal government commodities that are being brought down to us in order to be able to aid in disaster like COVID, the amount of space that requires. Our current building was built to be 10 million pounds. Well, we're distributing 20 million pounds annually almost. So we're double the capacity of that building. And then if there is a disaster, we see millions of pounds more, and we never want to turn food away. For us, it was critical to be able to build another 45,000 square feet to the side of our building in order to be able to never have to turn food away and to continue to source all of the nutritious food that we've been doing so far already, and even more so in the future. So thank you for noticing that and asking about it.
You're very welcome. And you were also, well, we're all packaging food. We did 6 pallets.
Oh, wow.
And time went by really fast because you guys, one of your volunteers there was playing some of the best 80s music.
It's wonderful. You know what? I hear all of the music from my office, and I always know the generation that's there, and we have multiple generations that come. In fact, for many of our seniors, that is how they get their exercise. And so it goes anywhere from current pop rock to, actually, I've heard like 60s and 70s music playing every once in a while as people are dancing around. And it just shows the amount of generations that we have here and people that are making sure that our neighbors are not starving and that we're finding a way to tackle food insecurity together. So we're excited for it. We're excited for that new building to be built. It will be the Desert's regional food security campus, meaning it represents all of us coming together so that our neighbors know where their next meal is coming from. We want food security here, and that should be the culture of our entire region together. No one starves.
Councilmember Lamb.
You know what, my question was answered, it was about the expansion, but thank you so much for all your details about this.
Absolutely. Well, and let me just add one more thing. We are going to be launching a workforce development program in that, so it will be going beyond just food distribution. We will be doing job skills training and development in order to be able to tackle the root causes of hunger, which a lot of the times is professional development and workforce development. So we're excited about that.
Thank you, Debbie.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Great job.
Thank you.
Any members of the public like to comment?
I don't have any request to speak forms for this item. If you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised.
Thank you. Again, Debbie, thank you for all the work you do in the valley here. Much appreciated. I thought I had that on mute. Apologize. Item B, presentation on InterGov implementation. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really pleased to present this update to you all. For the last, well, for many years, we've been working on improving our processes and our workflow in the community development area specifically, but across the city as well. And we've really made tremendous progress in the last year with automating our functions with our objective of making our processes be predictable, automated, and facilitative. And so Matthew Levy, our, what is your title?
Enterprise Systems Analyst.
Enterprise Systems Analyst is here. He's sort of headed up the project, but it's been many, many people throughout the city that worked on it. And he's going to share the progress that we've made on this and what's still to come. Matthew?
Thank you. Thank you very much, City Manager. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Matthew Levy. I am the Enterprise Systems Analyst for the city. And today we're going to talk about the Citizen Self-Service Portal and Enterprise Permitting and Licensing, the backbone of this software here. EPNL, we're going to call it, and CSS, we'll call the other side of it. And just real quick, an agenda breakdown here. We're going to look over the project overview, what EPL was designed to do, the issues we faced, some of the objectives we set forth to accomplish throughout the project, and really how we could create synergy throughout our departments by doing so. We're going to go over an implementation recap, basically a timeline of the events, how everything unfolded, a day in the life of the implementation team throughout that process. Some key outcomes and achievements, the fun stuff, numbers, lots of number crunching, some qualitative and quantitative analysis, and really some efficiency through automation that we set up. And then we're going to talk about staff involvement, and then we'll jump into questions. So hopefully we can get that all done real quick here. But for the project overview, EPNL is a robust and powerful front-facing suite of software that is more of a transactional portal between staff and residents. There was a discrepancy in how the software was programmed initially. It created massive challenges to the software because most, if not all of our processes that were configured, only work with the staff side of EPNL. For this software to be successful, we needed to be forward-thinking in the development stages of the project. We were stuck in a precarious situation because the real benefit of EPNL is the CSS module, or the front-facing part of it, that allows the software to be usable for our residents. We mistakenly, like many other jurisdictions, programmed a new software to do exactly what our old software did. The city was experiencing the following issues: excessive manual processes, delayed processing times. Our staff would really enter all the paper applications that were sent to us into the software. We had a lot of manual emails, manual phone calls, workflow via email, manually renewing licenses, the list goes on. Residents and developers had no access to our service after hours. Our residents and developers got sent to multiple city locations to accomplish a singular task. It all led to staff and resident and developer frustration. We had disparate solutions like Excel tracking sheets, emails, again, whiteboards, notebooks, Post-its. Invoicing and payment inefficiencies were very great. We were still using antiquated credit card authorizations forms to capture payments. The worst part about it is we had incomplete records in the system, and we had PRA, and it was really hard for us to find data, and that's not good. So here we have the objectives. When we first started the project, we knew we had to get a couple things in line, and really the online portal deployment was the primary focus. We needed to get our online applications for permits, plans, business licensing, and renewals accessible and online. We needed an integrated payment processing and online invoicing system. And we really wanted to get our online inspection requests through the portal as well. Our permits, plans, and licensing needed kind of a bolstered efficiency. We really wanted to go to paperless plan submission and integrate it with a third-party software called Bluebeam, which allows for community-type reviews instead of singular one-track reviews. Our solar app integration with EPNL, which is governed by the state of California and the National Renewable Electric Governing Body, we wanted to get that going, for expedited rooftop solar permitting. We also knew we had to enhance our workflows and automations, which leads to the system rebuild. The hard part about this part here and our objectives, we knew that we were going to face some problems here because we had to keep the old system running the entire time because we had permits in there and everyone was still using the software. So essentially we had to build a new system in parallel to the old. So we had two different systems running at all times. We had to redefine how we do business, and so we could configure that in the system. We had to stay close to our fee schedule and really wanted to bolster our invoice automation. We knew that public engagement was going to be big here because this is a front-facing piece of software. So we knew, Ryan, thank you, for our marketing efforts. We had to jump into our website, edit a bunch of pages, social media, had to send out blasts via news, etc. We deployed public-facing kiosk stations for our residents and developers that did not have access to computers at home. The staff assistance with resident adoption was great because staff ultimately was going to be the ones who were going to bridge the gap between the residents and the software. So staff was trained in a 360 type learning environment where they learned how to be the applicant and then the processor of the application. We knew this was going to be a big culture shift, so we had to create some kind of culture shift here because the EPNL system, no one liked it. It was horrible. We don't call it Energov anymore here because EPNL had to be renamed. So we had to build trust in our system. We had to make the system work for us, and we really wanted to develop some interdepartmental workflows and build a culture based on great customer service and efficiency. So real quick on a timeline here, back in July of 2021, the city went live with EPNL, or Energov. Unfortunately, the online portal did not go live back then. So a couple years passed, fast forward to June 2023, the city contracted Park Consulting to remedy the issues the city was experiencing with the software. In August of 2023, or August to September 2023, we hired an enterprise systems analyst, myself. We ended up canceling the Park contract after reviewing the SAL and making sure that the contract didn't make much sense at some parts of it. So we canceled it. We developed a project implementation plan in-house, and the project and change management began. From September to December 2023, we did a citywide risk assessment and process discovery session, which was basically 2 days where we took every single department inside the study session room in floor 1, and we delved deep into every single process they had in the system to unearth anything that we could to remedy the problems. We also upgraded the Tyler software ecosystem during that time, so IT had a big push there to upgrade all of the different software components and servers. We also launched the invoicing and Solar App Plus online during that time, and we engaged in a contract with Tyler Technologies for additional support. From January to June of 2024, that was really the meat and potatoes of this project. 6 months, process discovery questionnaires, and anybody that worked on this project doesn't want to hear that word anymore, probably. We did a lot of software configuration, so we would take these questionnaires, extract data from subject matter experts, we call them people, take what they told us and program it in the software, ultimately to test it and to train with that software in different various environments. After we tested and trained and made sure it was good, we had to vet that really good because it's going out to the public. We then launched these permits and plans online, almost one by one fashion. So it was almost like working in a restaurant at that point. Then at the same time, we were deactivating the old ones, so we no longer use the old ones. That's how we phased everything out. We also were able to launch citywide e-reviews during this time, so we went to a completely paperless solution via training, lots of training and learning how to use the system. We provided a council update in 3 of 2024. At that time, we had 10 or so permits online that were doing pretty well for us, but here we are now. From July to September of 2024, we launched our online inspections completely online, really for the building and safety department, some engineering. Our iPad inspection integration with our inspectors in the field was heightened and released fully when we did that in July. We finally got some time to do some system cleanup and manicuring, which is huge for the IT side and for any part of a system you want it to be pretty efficient. We were able to test some ancillary processes like tax collection and escrows during this time. But at the end of September 2024, we had over 100 plus permits, plans, and licenses completely available online 24/7. From August to present time, we were able to launch our online business licensing and renewals. We entered the post-implementation phase of this project, which is a focus on support, training, enhancements, and fixes for our staff. And at this time, right now, if you went onto our portal, we have over 130 plus permits, plans, and licenses online. We were able to onboard Riverside County for permit data retrieval, which saves staff time, but moreover, they're pulling data like issued permits, they're pulling plan sets whenever they want, however they want, instead of having to come to City Hall and have our staff print out a big bucket of all these things and then they take it back to Riverside County. So they could jump into our system anytime. IT did some heavy lifting there to make our system accessible to them. We also were able to onboard 8+ contract reviewers that are extensions of staff that work for our various departments as reviewers in the system. So real quick here, this is a recap of a day in the life of one of our implementation team members. 2 sessions per day, 3 days per week, 4 hours per session for 24 weeks, which led to about 144 total sessions over 576 hours in a room together. We had fun, but you know how that works sometimes. So in our shared sessions, staff were challenged to refine and define customer-centric processes in our reimagination of the software rollout. The days were long and arduous, but the end result of enhancing our software kept the staff motivated and engaged at all times. A sample week would look like this. A Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was when we did all of our work. Mondays and Fridays were to do the configuration and programming for the next week. Building and safety would come in on a Tuesday morning for about 4 hours, licensing in the afternoon. On a Wednesday, typically fire would come in the morning, and then we would jump into building in the afternoon. Thursday would be planning and engineering, AM, PM sessions. A sample day, process questionnaires maybe in the morning, early, where we discussed crazy things like fees, workflow, attachments, custom forms, really coming up with these great group discussions to really hammer out these processes. Did a lot of testing and training in a computer lab-based focused kind of room. In floor 1, we had 6 machines at all times ready to go to test these processes. And then we were doing editing and refining constantly in these days and weeks. So here we are at the numbers. Try not to bore you here, I'll do my best. But these are our permits, plans, and licenses through the months. So you can see this graph, it's ascending, it looks great. But previous to December of 2023, we didn't have anything available online. The only way to submit to the city was to print a paper application, fill it out, scan it, and email it to us, and then wait for us to get back to you, right? So in December 2023, I have one little baby, little permit down there, but that permit was very, very vital to the success of this project. That was the Solar App Plus integrated permit. And it's expedited, it's very quick, it really showed staff how we can use this system to our advantage, for once, right? In January 2024, we jumped from 1 to 15, 45, 59, 62. You see us level out there. And the reason we level out there between March and April is because when you release this much stuff online, there's going to be a downtime to fix it all too. So even though we vetted it, there's always things that pop up. So you can see kind of levels, little plateaus throughout this process. And that's really where, once we released all of these, we fixed them, moved on, dropped some more online. So you see a spike in May, levels off in June, that's us fixing again. A big spike in July of 2024, that's when the entire planning department went fully online. I think we released 36 overnight one night because we finally got it vetted to the point enough where we felt comfortable. And then in August of 2024, we jumped to 127. That is when our business licensing went online. And then we are trickling small little ancillary permits, plans, licenses, and we're at 134 in September of 2024. Some more numbers here. Again, these are online sales from December of 2023 to September of 2024. We don't want to talk about the total right now, but previous to December of 2023, we didn't have online revenue. We weren't able to. In December of 2023, with that one singular permit, we were able to go to about $4,000. And you can see in January, February, March, we start jumping. And then April, there's this big spike because we finally caught up. It was like running before you could walk type thing. And you see a big spike there, and then it levels off in May, just natural dips. June, again, $128,000 online. July dips a little bit again, just natural, basic stuff there. July's a really slow month, hot. And then in August, it almost doubles. And that's because our business licensing and renewals went online. And so you see a huge spike in August and September. We do forecast to see these numbers about that range, and that would amount to what we were doing before in person, about 2.4 million, give or take. So the total of the last 9 months, we're at about $1 million, over $1 million. The top graphic on the top left is in July, there was a resolution passed by the council for the convenience fees, for the e-checks and the credit card fees. And we were able to, in the last 3 months that we were actually capturing this data because we didn't have it before, we were able to recapture $11,409 of city spent money before. So we actually realized if we take in $10, we're realizing that is real revenue now. Whereas before, we always paid our merchant processor some money because we could never realize that money. Our e-check fees, we recoup $271. It goes back to the general fund to offset those merchant processing fees. So we have some more numbers here. Don't hate me, I swear. Day of the week online transactions. This is basically a very easy to understand graph here of how we do business online. And you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a lot of action. We have a lot going on during the week, but we're open 7 days a week now. So Saturdays and Sundays, we can do it too. So either way, it's up to our residents and our developers whenever they want to jump into our system, more than able to at any time. More numbers. These are in-person visits from February 2024 to September 2024 for our building and safety counter in person. So kudos to our building and safety and community development department to track these things because it's not easy to do this either. But you can see here some trends here. We don't need to go over all of it, but February, March, April, you can see throughout all of our months, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are our busy days, right? That's when our contractors coming in. Mondays and Fridays kind of kept similar. But when you get to August, when we had every single building permit and inspections available online, you see a huge dip. Especially Fridays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays almost see a 50% reduction in traffic because they're getting everything done online. So the 2 last months, we want to come back to this in about a year and really compare this data to get the year over year, but it's looking really good right now, and our people are getting happier and happier, so that's nice to see. So these are a little bit different here. So this is efficiency through automation, and this is where our different processes that the city offers. We kind of want to show you the old issuance times versus the new issuance times, and some old staff processing times versus new staff processing times to show you some different type of numbers here. But specifically to our building team, it's a little bit easier to measure issuance times. So for our expedited residentials, all expedited permits, which includes HVACs, main service panels, water heaters, windows, doors, re-roofs, temp power poles, sewer connections, all these great, easy to do things for us, which used to take us about 2 to 6 weeks, now takes about 1 business day or less, sometimes 10 minutes. Alterations for residential and TIs or tenant improvements on the commercial side, typically it took us about 8 to 12 weeks to get that thing turned around. We're doing it between 5 and 10 business days. New construction, whether it be res, commercial, doesn't matter. Anything that we're building out there, it used to take us 12 to 20 weeks to turn something around, which is a very long time. 4 weeks about now. So we feel pretty comfortable with that. That's faster than most cities, by the way, too. For engineering, we had new single-family dwelling grading permits, which used to take our staff 60 minutes to get this thing in the system. They're now processing these things in 20 minutes. Utility encroachments, which is incredible. It used to take about 15, 20 minutes to process one of these, and these are very simple permits when our utility companies are going out there digging a couple of potholes and stuff like that, taking us 3 to 5 minutes on the back end now, just to process the record. Pool drains, 10 minutes, went down to 1 to 2 minutes, so almost a 90% reduction. Transportation permits or wide loads, 15 to 20 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes now. Business licensing, our new business license applications used to take us about 10 minutes for like a seasoned staff member. It's taking staff about 3 to 4 minutes to process these things online in the back office. Business license renewals, 4 minutes, one of our biggest ones here, 4 minutes to 20 seconds. It's just more of a review, click, 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 it's done. So just to recap all the key outcomes and all those numbers we just saw, we redesigned the software to suit our residents' experience, which was very different than the first time. We streamlined application submittal and payment processes. Applications can be submitted 24/7, not limited to normal business hours anymore. We have less in-person visits for our residents and developers. A step-by-step online processing, basically a guide online, provides clarity and accessibility for our people. Developers and residents receive updates and automated status notifications received via the portal. Our online inspection requests, we have invoicing and fee capture now. We've streamlined permitting, planning, and licensing issuance by expediting the workflow automations. Processing times were cut into fractions of old processing time. We just saw all those numbers. The plan check review process has really been one of our biggest parts here that's been improved. We now have interdepartmental communication facilitated by Bluebeam. Once we send out a review, everyone's reviewing it. It's no more like, hey, building, you do your thing, then planning, you're gonna do your thing, and then fire, you're gonna do your thing, and everyone's gonna stamp this thing, and then 7 to 10 weeks later, we're gonna get it back to building and safety. Once we kick it out, everyone's doing it. You can see everybody in live time doing it. It's more like a 365 environment, cloud-based. So reduce review timelines. A big one, no more lost plans. That can really lose a lot of faith in the city when we would lose plans, probably at some point in time. Every city, it's happened to every city, even in my old city. But we have expedited plan assessments and resubmission, so even if you have to resubmit the plan set, it's very easy to do that. Overall efficiency, we really feel like we've bolstered our customer satisfaction and staff satisfaction. We do feel like the residents and developers now have a real-time access to all things Cathedral City in one portal. And the biggest, in my opinion, is synergy amongst our staff. This slide shows you the scope of how large this project kind of puts its fingers in every single part of the city. This is one of the most challenging projects cities usually have to do. Most projects are relegated to one department. This one touches, you could see, a lot of them. So, I do want to give one quick shout out to Cindy Hansen, our original implementer and keystone to our expedited project implementation stretch. Her knowledge of the fees really helped streamline this process. And Sue Townsley, our volunteer back there, so she's fantastic. Any questions?
Wow, what can I say, Matthew? That's a whole lot. You know, that's amazing. What's next? I mean,
I don't know.
You still have to keep putting in and keep growing on this? Or
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's something that's just not set right now. It's
You are correct. It's a living, breathing organism. We will have to provide support. We are looking in the future of moving this outside of the city. So a lot of enhancements, Mayor. We're going to try to move it out to the cloud-based technology with Tyler Technology. And that's really the next step, because they're going to kind of, within about 5 years, they're going to not allow us to host our own software in the city anymore. So we'll have to move all 5 servers up to the cloud. Piece of cake for us. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Yeah. We're going to be okay.
Our challenge is there's a lot of projects already. And as Matthew talked about, that this is all of this interacts with our city's financial system, Munis. So there's other projects within Munis related to budgeting, related to our HR information system that staff are waiting for Matthew to free up some of his time from this project to be able to leap into. But I just want to echo what Matthew said. I mean, Matthew's been just such a great addition to, and the perfect person to lead this team to really help with change management, which is really what all of this is about, and helping the departments, get through the barriers of how we've always done it to how we really want to do it. The efforts by all the departments and through the leadership of the department directors has been phenomenal, and the staff really all participated. If they had tasks to do, they kept up on them to make this go as fast as it could. And so I just wanted to, again, express my thanks and appreciation to everyone's hard work in getting us to the place that we're at right now.
Thank you, man. Councilmember Lamb? You should now.
But just in moving systems from one way to do things to another, where have you been all our lives? I mean, this is just phenomenal. And we, as council, I'm sure in our communities, we heard from business and, they were frustrated with the length of time, and people wanted to invest in Cathedral City and didn't know how it was going to go. So I really appreciate this. And I love the part, as a former school teacher and principal, I love the part about where everybody had to sit down for staff development, because otherwise it sits on the shelf. Whatever new is out there that's going to help things, if the staff isn't trained, it's pointless. It's a big expenditure gone nowhere. And I love data, and my philosophy was always, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So this is really, fact-based, and I really appreciate all that you've done. This is lovely. Thank you.
Councilmember Gutierrez?
Thank you. Well, I'm happy to hear the news. Like Councilmember Lamb mentioned, we used to get our share of phone calls in the past from residents and developers as to how long it was going to take or how long it was taking, and there was nothing but complaints very often. So I'm happy to see that the timeline has really, really been reduced, and how many permits you can actually come in just like the old days, and you can get them right over the counter. And I'm happy to see that we can actually process 134, you said, permits?
Oh, yes, correct. Yes.
Online. And now, residents or builders or developers can process this from the comfort of their own home or office, correct?
Correct.
And 24/7, like you mentioned.
Yes, Councilmember, that's correct.
And how many more permits do we need to input into the system in order to be fully automated?
There's a handful. Not much left. Our special events permits, special use permits in the cooker right now, that takes a big kind of community as well because it touches so many parts of the city. But to answer your question, it's about 5 to 7 maybe at the most.
Okay. And also, can you tell me which permits are actually approved and reviewed and approved over the counter?
Yeah, so it's most of our, and if it has expedited in it, it's going to be really, really quick. And there's about 12 to 14 of those types. Those are our high flyers. It's what we need to process quickly. It's basically the meat and potatoes of what's happening out in the field every day almost, constantly.
And what permits are we actually subcontracting for review and approval with subcontract?
That's a great question. Some of the new cannabis stuff, some of the TIs that are a little bit more advanced, some of the commercial solars, some of the really large electrical projects, and not NSFDs, some of the basically new buildings, but anything with a really large plan check, typically that would take a long time for staff because they have to do so many different things.
Pool permits, are they
No,
over the counter?
that's in-house, yeah.
That's in-house? And how long does that take to get them?
Very
approved?
quick, rapid, they're expedited as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so room additions or any
80.
alterations, they're the ones that probably get sent out then?
Just the very large ones that require multi-levels of construction or, yes, yeah, like really just the new big, anything new construction-wise, but that could be more of a building and safety question again, but it's really anything big with large plan reviews. It's not gonna be anything that typically goes out like, I can't say it, but anything that's not expedited, just the large construction projects really. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when someone actually submits permits for a brand-new home, you get them online, and they can immediately, by a touch of a button, get distributed to the outsourced, subcontracted contractor for review and approval.
That is correct now. Now we can, yes.
And the turnaround, that's what makes it so much faster, because you don't have to
We're not
take
waiting.
them to, you don't have to wait for FedEx to pick them up, deliver, and vice versa once the plan check has been completed.
Correct. And if we feel like we want planning to look at it, just to look at it real quick, then we can capture that fee and send it out to planning with like that as well, or fire, or whoever, but they all get it at once.
And now, one of my final questions is, when we, let's say we have an addition to a home, the plans have been sent out for a plan check, returned, and there's 3 minor corrections. Do those corrections, are we able to, even though we subcontract with somebody else to do that, are we able to actually redline and make those corrections in-house so we don't have to send them back again and waste another week or two?
Yes, so when our contract reviewers act like staff. They go onto the record, they comment like they're us. They're really extensions of us. So when they have redline, or when they have markups that they need to address, there's a switch in the system that basically says, hey, you need to resubmit. The applicant gets it on their portal, they see all the markups, and they can literally just go back and re-upload the new version of the drawing. And I'm hoping answering your question here.
I think I want to just kind of add on to that. So all of our contractors are working within the system. So our plan checkers, our contract engineers, they all have logins so that if they're doing that commentary on behalf of the city, they're doing it within the system. Because it's routing so quickly, we do have the efficiencies as Matthew talked about. And one of the things, if you recall, not too long ago, the building department went out to bid, or went out for RFP for new plan check firms, because the prior firm that we had was not able to do online plan check. And so that was when staff were receiving paper plans and having to ship them back and forth. So when they went out to RFP for that, it was a requirement that they had to be able to accept and process electronic plans. So everything right now is routing within the system. It's not separate emails. Staff are communicating, whether it's staff or our contractors are communicating to our customers, be that a homeowner or a contractor, through the system. So all of that communication about a project, anyone who's touched it, if staff, can put notes so that anyone else going into it can know, maybe a question that was brought up. All of that's visible to the staff that are handling that application. And then from the customer side, they can get updates and they can look in the system and see what the status is of their application and where it's at in review. They'll get notifications when they have to make payments of their fees, which they can do through the system. And then if permits are issued, they're also issued directly through the system, directly to them, all electronically.
Well, I'm happy to hear that we're advancing to make things easier for everybody.
Yes.
And keep in mind, just to make sure that, for instance, sometimes when a plan gets submitted and it goes to plan check and it comes back as a correction that the address needs to be illuminated, well, on page 3 or 4, it might have something quoting that address is to be eliminated. Then we can just say, okay, someone here can actually say, okay, we can overwrite that and say, okay, that correction was actually here. It's not a correction.
I think I understand. I know exactly. Can we expedite? I got you. So yes, we can do certain things like that. So, but overall, like what Ann said, it's just much easier to do these reviews.
Right.
Simply put.
I got the opportunity
The other
to use
thing-
it twice already, and I was, of course, the first time I had to log in properly and everything, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot easier.
It will,
It's-
and to be quite honest, we had a lot of old permits that then popped up into the portal. So we did have some couple rough areas there because we weren't using the new ones still because we still had to process the old ones, and those were a little bit harder to do through the portal. So I'm not sure if that was maybe a part of that, but so we still had to mitigate issues there as well.
And one of the things that I would say that if you or anyone that you know is interacting with the system and has any kind of a hiccup, please let us know. As Matthew said, this has been a lot of work in a relatively short period of time, and so there are little hiccups along the way. And any of that kind of feedback really helps us make the system better. So hopefully you're hearing more from members of the community that these processes are better and easier for them. But if you do hear of anyone that is having any trouble or has any questions, please refer them back to us, and we'll be happy to reach out to them so that we can either see if it's just they need some help navigating the system or if there really is some kind of a bug or something that we need to fix. And Matthew and his team can get on that.
Well, definitely will. I'll tell you my experience, it was a minor glitch, but I will let you know. One of my city licenses was actually, for some reason, I never received the renewal. So I went online, did everything, but I couldn't pay it. So I had to come in, and someone needed to do something with the system, and it was corrected.
Okay.
So, but because I needed to pay for the previous year plus this year. So it's
It was
something
sitting in review, yes.
some kind of glitch.
Sorry about that, Councilman.
Yeah, so business licensing and the planning processes are our newer ones in the system too. So definitely if there is anything small, just give us a call, before making the drive down, and we can walk through the system with you and help get that corrected.
I was really satisfied because the problem was actually corrected immediately.
Great.
So, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
want to hear.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gregory.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Matthew, for the presentation and for all the work you've been doing. So let me just ask a couple of questions to make sure that I understand. So when you are processing these permits, especially the expedited ones that are more routine, so are they actually handled in order that they're submitted?
They are.
I mean, I suppose if they have an issue, they may kick out and then until it's corrected and come back, but are they handled in order?
They are, in
Okay.
descending order. Right? They come in, the staff has a hub screen, their own dashboard, and as they come in from the portal, they see what comes in, just like a line of what's new, and they walk in for the day.
Right. Okay, that's excellent. That was one of the issues I used to hear before, that it depended on how friendly you are with certain people, you could get a quicker handling. Of course, it was taking a long time, so that was more of an issue. But I'm glad to hear that the machine is just kind of having them handled in order, it sounds like. So, if something goes out, say it goes out to a contract reviewer, an in-house reviewer, and they don't respond, is there some type of a tickler system? So we don't have to wait until the applicant,
we have
waits
a
a long
sal with
time?
them, like they have to, so if they don't, it's against their contract. We have contractual policy, I think it's within 24 hours they have to provide comments to us.
So they have a time period that they need
Yeah.
to respond, and the system will somehow flag if they're not
Well,
responding?
Not the system, but we have the permit processors. We have certain job roles in the city now, defined job roles. It's their job to check that and groom those and manicure those lists. It's just much easier to do it now when you have a refined system. So they can get a report in 2 clicks. Oh, this one's sitting for 3 days. Uh-oh, let me see who's on the case. Couple clicks, another email to that reviewer.
Previously, in the departments, it was all, an external spreadsheet. So engineering had their spreadsheets, and planning had their spreadsheets, and building had theirs. And there was no way for anyone to sort of have that high-level overview of where everything was at in the system. Now they can, and then the responsible staff, in their areas of responsibility, can either make sure that within the department that the staff are doing their jobs and can poke if they need to. The staff that work with the contractors can provide that feedback. And then the other thing that the planning department has set up is they have their regular development review committee meetings. And so staff are getting together on a regular basis, I think it's on a bi-weekly basis, to go through current projects, go through things that are in the system coming forward, and they have that collaboration together on just making sure that everyone's working together on significant projects. So while it's not, those kind of activities are not fully automated in the system, the way things are routing and the way the processes are now, if something is not aligned, it's really obvious, and staff can,
So they get kind of like a list or a roster, and they go
it's
through them all?
within their dashboards.
Oh, yeah, so it's not like a oops, the project got shelved, and, we have a patient applicant out there waiting, and then we find out, oh, that got put in the wrong pile, which used to happen, and then, then it would be turned into a big urgent thing, and quite embarrassing that somehow their project was delayed because, it got shuffled off somewhere.
That brings up a good point, Councilmember Gregory, because a lot of things under the old paper system happened consecutively. It would start in planning, it would sit in there until they got done, and then and only then would it go on to building, and then fire, et cetera. Now, all of that can happen concurrently, which that alone.
Yeah, that's a good point, because yes, it used to be if one department was getting behind, you might have another department that had more, we won't say idle time, because I'm sure they did other things, but, and so it was really whatever the slowest department was holding everything up, and if people went on vacation or, had some other big project they were working on, everything came to.
Here now, everyone can see everything. It can be reassigned if somebody's out. And if there isn't, a set of plans that went over to the fire department for them to make comments on, and then a set that went to building and for them to make comments on. It's one set of plans that's electronic that all of the departments have their own colors, have their own stamps, and are providing a comment into one document. So not only the staff can see that, but the person whose plans those are can see, okay, here's planning's issues, here's engineering's issues, here's the fire department's concerns, and they can address that to all of the departments simultaneously.
Excellent. So I heard you mention that there's a kiosk down in the lobby. I haven't looked at it, but it has scanning ability. So that kind of brought me to, so if someone shows up and they're not really e-competent or have the hardware at home to scan something in that they need to scan in, or really are struggling with how to fill out forms, does staff then work with them here?
That is correct, Councilmember Gregory, yes. So we would take that in and we would take time, staff, that's like their new job, is that's part of their new imagination of their job. And so, yeah, we go out there, I helped someone the other day. I mean, everyone pitches in. So if someone needs help, we get them into the system. We have user guides set up, user guides online. The kiosks are set up with a specialty software that wipes all personal data after a session, like library software. So if they're scanning in personal documents or plans, if they're scared they're going to get, copied for a new single-family build, it won't. It purges all data from the hard drive in the sandbox environment.
And those are located here downstairs on the first floor so they come in through the door in development services, and staff can sit down with them at the counter to help them through that. There's one on the second floor at the outside the finance counter, and one at the fire department.
Fire admin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fire admin.
Fire admin.
So we have three.
All right, well, that's excellent to hear. I'm sure, many of your developers, once they get used to it, they're not going to have that kind of issue, but I I'm glad to see that you're also capturing the occasional user or the one-time user that they're able to get some assistance with using the system. So my own personal feedback is always was been with the business licensing side of it, and so I know that I do appreciate that the feedback. I know I've given a little feedback before and may again to try to make it smoother and smoother, and the wording, make sure the wording is more, obvious to the layperson, I guess I'd say, than to the experts. So I know that that'll be a continued effort. So I just again want to join my colleagues and say, I've been my sixth year on the council, and when I came on council, that was one of the routine things, was how complaints or concerns from our residents and developers was how long everything takes, how difficult it is to get information. And I know we struggled because we were getting feedback sometimes from certain staff members that it was impossible, or this was as probably as good as we were going to get, and it just wasn't acceptable. So you really have, I know with your team, and I know, Ann, you have a lot to do with this too, but have really kind of broken through. And this is, I think, the kind of thing that I know I was hoping to see. And so I join my council members in thanking you and looking for more and more to come as things develop or change, so that everyone, both the residents and the developers, and frankly staff and staff time, everyone can benefit from having this software working the way it's supposed to.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Any public comments?
I don't have any request to speak forms for this item. If you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment, please raise your hand. And I see no hands raised.
Thank you. Fire Department Strategic Plan Update. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff report?
We do. Mayor, Chief Contreras is here to provide an update. We have the city strategic plan, which of course you all develop and adopt, and we report on from time to time. In conjunction with that, the fire department has a strategic plan which keys off of the city strategic plan, and all kinds of other things that they've been working on. So I just thought it would be a good idea to give you all an update on where they stand on the various things and what's still to come. Chief.
Oh, Chief.
Awesome. Mayor, Honorable Council, thank you for your time. Mayor, I see you sit back, relax. This may take a few minutes, so get comfortable.
Give me the popcorn.
So a little bit of background. We're right at 18 months since we did our strategic plan. And when I initially got here, we did a SWOT analysis: strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And when we put together the strategic plan, the things that I felt that were really important was to address those. If you guys remember, nobody will forget, we came out of COVID, right? There's a lot of things that were happening in the city and in the country. And one of those was a shortage of firefighters, right? And going back and looking at HR's records, we had not had a fully staffed fire department in over 5 years, right? And so as we look at the strength, the strength was we provide good service, right? When our men and women go out, we provide good medical service to the community. One of the weaknesses was not everybody was getting transported in a timely fashion. The council actually helped with that, right? The opportunities was to, number one, fill those vacancies, but also fill them with what I would call the right people, right? When you look at a community that was made up of 60% Hispanic, and you only have a small portion of your workforce that can communicate with that, that's a huge opportunity, and we took advantage of that opportunity. And then the threat that we had, there was a lot of decision-making amongst a few people, that not everybody was incorporated into the decision-making and the activities of the fire department. And what I'm going to share here with you is how, not only how we did it, but how we tied it together. Here represents we work for you. So at the end of the day, whatever we do and we put on paper has to work and be tied into what you're doing. The 7 pillars are something we came up with of these should, when Mike Contreras and the council is all gone, your legacy should stand up. And these pillars should stand up the test of time. You see customer service, professional development, community interaction, leadership development, operational efficiency, wellness and safety, and fiscal responsibility. So when we looked, and as I go through this, we've tied each one of these to a council goal. And then finally, our values. And the way we see it and the way we built it was that those are all interactive, right? That they're all connected. They're separate, but they're connected. So the first city goal was customer service, serve the community with pride and dedication. We really have focused, and the last 18 months, we've built these programs. The only one of these programs that was here when I got here was the CERT program. And so it's taken some time to, number one, get people trained. Number two, get them launched, get them out into the public so people are aware of them, and then market them so people come around. The first one, the cadet program, actually, let me back up real quick. One thing I do want to say is that every goal that the council set for the fire department has been started, and every goal that we've set within our strategic plan has been accomplished. The final one is, and I'll talk about it, and is the accreditation. This was the final piece that we needed to do, and the council approved that not too long ago. So we now have 12 cadets. We issued uniforms this past weekend. And what I believe that's what's so important about this is we are giving these youths opportunity, right? They can come into our department, they can learn some knowledge, some skills, and some abilities that they can then turn into a trade and be able to provide for their families. This was the final piece to, if you look at our succession planning, we bring them in at anywhere from 16 to 21. They move to AOs, they move to firefighters, and then on up, and ultimately reflect the community. The other interesting fact is we are 50-50. We have 50% of the 12 that are female, and we have 50% that are male. So we not only reflect the community, but the demographics of the community. Next is our emergency preparedness. Council is all prepared into this. This was the first one that we were able to actually do in English and in Spanish. So to meet those needs of the community is, English is great, but Spanish for the community is a really big deal, and being able to communicate. And that you'll see that's a kind of an underlying theme in a lot of what we are doing. We can deliver services, but if it's only to 40% of the community, then we're missing a big chunk of when 60% of our community is Hispanic. Our CERT program, this is finally getting off the ground. It had kind of been dormant for a while, but everybody can kind of attest to this. This CERT program is what's going on back in North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. This is what we're going to count on. When things go bad, this is going to be a mobile workforce that we can mobilize. And right now, I just checked before I came in, we've got over 200 people on this group. We have contacts, we can send out a mass text. Are we going to get all 200? No, but as we build this larger and larger, we will be able to get that available workforce. With the team, over the last, again, year and a half, we're over 200. I want to say we're like at 240. The thing that excites me about this is these are the future, and these are the kids, they're going to engage. They come to this, they engage, they want to do it. It's not like school where we're pulling them to do it. They are engaged and they want to do it. What I call our bilingual expansion, right? When I got here, there was 4 people that spoke Spanish. And as you can see there, we've increased that by 200%. We almost have, we're not quite there. Actually, I take that back. We will be there next week when our final person gets on board. We will have a Spanish speaker on every piece of equipment that rolls out of our fire station, right? And as you know, when you call 911, that's your worst day, right? And the inability to communicate with somebody and tell them what your problem is can be, take that fear and fright, it can take it up to the next level. So that is one of the things that we really focus on in our hiring practices, in our recruiting practices. Where are we getting our workforce? Do they reflect the Coachella Valley? Almost half of our new hires actually live in the Coachella Valley, and we've got 5 that actually live in Cathedral City. So I think that's a big focus that we've tried to be purposeful in hiring those individuals. Our inspections, Matthew just kind of talked about, we worked with one of the pieces of that program, but we've completed, actually I shouldn't say we've completed, we're in the process of completing, we'll have it done by the end of the year, every business inspection, 1,200 businesses, and we have a multi-tiered fire prevention program. When we started, we had an inspector, that was it. Now we have an inspector, we have a fire marshal, and then we have our engine companies. And that's that kind of multi-tiered approach. So depending on if it's a new construction, that's going to be the fire marshal. We need that technical expertise. If it's to go inspect that new home, that's going to be the inspector. If it's just the business and business license renewal, our engine companies can do that. And that's also helps them familiarize themselves with the business. So hopefully, but in some cases, you go there after dark, it's on fire, you're familiar with it. You've seen it, you've been there, you know what's in that building. And that's really key to our safety. The third ambulance, we've talked about it. This has made a huge difference. Now, I'm going to present, some of our data. Our call volume is going up. This made a huge difference in our ability to turn calls around. But with that, we had to also hire a whole new set of ambulance staff with that. So we've pretty much been on the hiring circuit for the better part of 18 months. Our transports, this shows that over this period of time from 21 to 23, we've seen a 25% increase in transports. Does that mean that they weren't there before? No, it just means that we couldn't transport them because we didn't have the resources. And what we've already seen so far this year is that number is increasing. We're continuing to see an increase in the transport services. Professional development. Yours was to serve the community with pride and dedication. Ours obviously is professional development. I talked about the cadet program. What this is we have multiple parts to it. It's the AO to Fire Academy. So you come in as an ambulance attendant, and after you get off probation, we will send you to the Fire Academy. That allows you, it's a part-time academy. We sponsor you, we'll let you use our turnouts, our uniforms, and you go learn that skill. And then the final piece is once you become an AO, you become that firefighter, or you get that firefighter training, we'll now move you into that. And these are two individuals that took advantage of that. So they started as an AO, and now they're career firefighters. So they've made that transition. These are two of our AO that we sent to the Fire Academy. I was fortunate enough to be at their graduation, and so now they're ready, right? And I can't tell you that we're going to be able to hire them all, but what we are doing is we are training these. We're going to get the cream of the crop. We're going to be able to choose the most highly trained that fit into our culture, right? And what we're talking about are 7 pillars. Who are the people that represent that? We work with these kids, we train them, and then we are able to recruit and pick the cream of the crop. This was one of the things that was really challenging. Hazardous materials, and anybody who drives the streets or gets on the freeway or sees the Union Pacific Railroad knows that we have hazardous materials running up and down our freeway that expose not only our firefighters, but the community. And this was one of those things that we were, when I found out in the audit, we were not compliant. We were in violation of OSHA. And it was a huge lift because you had to get the whole department through this. It had to get somebody to come out in here and do it over 2 weeks. And you can see there it was 923 hours of training that we had to, and it was 50-50. So now the first part is all of our people know how to respond to those hazardous materials. And sometimes it's not what you do, it's what you don't do. Maybe we should do nothing in this case. And I know you guys are aware, but during the Hurricane Hillary, there was a train derailment, right? That train was derailed. And how do we deal with that? And that was part of this training, is how we do that, which is the second part, the hazmat IC. So we put all of our battalion chiefs and all of our fire captains through what they call hazmat IC, incident commander. How do you, as the person in charge, how do you deal with that? What do you do? What do you not do? right? Because again, with hazardous materials, sometimes you just need to stay away, evacuate, shelter in place. There's a lot of things. And we put on a 3-day class for that. So now, not only at the entry level, our firefighters, but at our supervision and manager level, they've all gone through that training. Training hours. When I got here, there was 8,347 hours of training. This past year, we did 24,000 hours of training, right? And some of that is because we have a fully functioning workforce. All our positions are filled. People are in positions. We've got a lot of young people, and so we're putting a lot of investment in them to teach them these skills, and then bring in the next group up. And I'll talk a little bit here about promotional. The other thing is, if you look at it's the orange line, that's all hands-on in person. It's not online, it's not Google, it's actually where they've got to go out, sometimes in the heat, right? I mean, there's some people who say, well, God, that's kind of tough out there. Well, you got to look at where we live, because that's what it takes to work out in Cathedral City. Are we developing everyone? That was one of the things that, like I said, in the SWOT analysis, was decision-making and control was centralized amongst anywhere from 4 to 6 people. When I look at professional development, is everybody getting the opportunities? We have 4 state certified instructors. So these are people that in-house, we've put them through training. They now can teach state curriculum. I just had a meeting last week with College of the Desert. We are going to be a satellite. We're going to take those instructors with COD's curriculum, and our EOC is going to be a satellite campus for COD. So not only for Cathedral City Fire Department, but Palm Springs, students that live, it'll be in the catalog. If they look in the catalog and say, oh, Cathedral Cities, our instructors can teach them. So for us, it gives us access to a much broader curriculum, but not anybody can do that. We have to have those state certified instructors. And the thing that we just, I don't want to say completed, because it took a process, but what I call our actor program. So historically, you cannot function in a position until you take the test and you move forward. Well, what the actor program does is it puts people through 170, for the battalion chief, it's 174 different tasks that they have to show proficiency. So the way it is we give them a task book, they have to go through and show competence, get signed off. Then they got to come up to test day. And on test day, that is going to help show that they can actually do it. And it's about a 4-hour evaluation that we make sure that they can do everything. If they don't, then they don't move on to the next level. What this allows us to do is take somebody at a lower rank, an engineer, who's completed a task book, and now he's an acting captain, right? He still gets feedback, he still gets evaluated. All those things happen just like he would on probation. But then we have multiple actors. So the thing that really will help us down is reduce overtime. It will make sure that we have available workforce. Because with a workforce of 20 or 41 safety people, there's not a lot of depth there. But I can tell you with these 4 that we've shown, and we have them at all ranks, at engineer, captain, and battalion chief, they're excited. Because that's what they want to aspire to, and now they get to perform in that position. Community interaction, embracing an inclusive community. So here's the list. I'd rather just show the pictures. We're out there in the community, right? And you see sometimes it may be, and I was hoping Chief Crum was here, because then I'd be able to point out that we've won 3 years in a row, but I mean, sorry. I know, it's shameless plug. But this is important, that the community sees their fire department out there. And then those are the interaction. Then what is the community risk reduction? So look at the fire side as the reactive part of public safety. Community risk reduction is the proactive part. So what are those things that we can do to change the community and the risk in the community? As an example, stop the bleed, right? For somebody who's elderly, who might be on blood thinners, i.e. it's usually Coumadin, a cut in the skin can be a life-threatening issue. So what we do in the class, How do you put pressure on it sounds pretty simple, but how do you do it? How do you put the pressure on? How do you elevate? How do you put a tourniquet on? Those, and so that's the overall theme of our community risk reduction program. And then again, I've already talked about it. We've increased in everything that we're doing. Moving forward, we will have English and Spanish. So it's not only being proactive, but it's also doing it in a way that serves the entire community. The HEAL program, we now have an in at Cathedral City High School. This is where we got a lot of our cadets. And we're doing our CERT program, but getting these young men and women, right, giving them a career opportunity before, again, think of risk, right? Are they going down the wrong path or the right path? We can play a role in that for our community youth. We've already talked about emergency preparedness. Smoke alarms. Last year we did over 465 smoke alarms. And this was, we went out on a Saturday morning and just went door to door. And I can tell you, when you go into some of these homes and you have to put 6 smoke alarms in, that's reducing risk, not just 6-fold, but probably 10-fold, because where are those smoke alarms? If they have nothing, then they're just going to get consumed by the fire. This is our CPR Stop the Bleed combo. We had 2 this last month, and between the 2 of them, we had over 35 people learn the life-saving skill of placing a tourniquet in CPR. Councilwoman, there's with our, I think this was at the high school, wasn't it? Okay. But it was getting those people out there in as many different places as we can. This is going to be my plug this weekend. We got our pancake breakfast. Last year we had over 350 people. This year we expect it to be bigger. But the other thing is what are we doing in the community? This weekend we'll be doing a bone marrow drive. So we have 2 young men that live in the community, and they are trying to find a bone marrow match. So we're going to do the swab. So it's more than just fire department, fire engine. How are we integrating into the community? Leadership development. I already talked a little bit about the task book, but why it's so important is the succession planning. When I got here, there was no succession planning. When we set this up, and leadership is not something, as you know, you don't just walk into it and say, oh, I've got it all figured out, I'm a leader now. You have to get people, I say, decision-making and leadership is like a muscle. You have to exercise it. If you don't exercise it, you're not going to develop it. And so through these variety of programs, we've really focused on that. And given that decision-making, pushed it to the lowest level. And there was one today where I had somebody call me and go, hey, Chief, I need your okay on this. And I said, haven't we talked about decisional space? This is your decisional space. Make a decision. And he's like, well, it's going to cost $300. Well, do you think they get bigger? The decisions get easier when they're 5,000? No, they just get tougher. So practice now, support it while you want to do it, and guess what? That's going to help you. And so it's forcing people to make decisions that sometimes they're uncomfortable with. Obviously, this is why we need to do it. Another thing that we developed was committees. So like I said, people didn't feel like they had an input in the fire department. And so we created these 5 committees. And what those committees are made up of members that have input. So we had our meetings yesterday. One of them was EMS, and there's a new protocol. And they're saying, well, we need a phone or do we need an iPad? And I said, well, make a decision. Which one do we need? Well, I would like iPads. Okay, well then support it with iPads. And getting them involved in understanding that it's not just the decision, now you have to carry that decision through. What type, like staff reports. Hey, do a staff report on it. I don't know how to, I'm a firefighter. I don't know how to do staff report. Well, today you're a firefighter. You could be a chief tomorrow and you may have to do it. So getting them to engage in everything that we're doing and give them some control of their destiny. I've already talked about the training hours, practicing the different skills. This was a group that we put, there was no standards when it came to manipulative skills. And I'm a big believer, if you don't have a standard, then how do you know what you're shooting for? So we created this group, we call them the cadre. They're the subject matter experts. They've done extra training, they've put in extra hours, and they are the subject matter experts. They're our state certified instructors. There's the ones that are doing our in-house testing and training. And they whatever everyone else does, they do double of that. So they maintain not only proficiency, but that expertise in all things fire. Operational effectiveness. So we talked about, Councilwoman, you talked about data, right? You guys give us a certain amount of money and say run the fire department. Well, how do you know that you're actually getting what you're paying for? And so this is a screenshot of our dashboard. This dashboard currently measures 7 things, and when it's fully rolled out, it'll measure 12 things. But it's things like our get out time. So in real time, we can tell is our engines getting out, are they hitting that mark of 1.5 minutes? And if they're not, then somebody has to ask the question, why? This is work attendance. Are people showing up to work? Are they sick days? Are they vacation days? Fire prevention inspections, training hours. And so this allows us to track everything we're doing. Anything that has a cost to it that we invest in, we want to know whether we're getting a return on that investment. It also, our calls, like we've talked about the ambulance, but it's bringing that data to you and making sure that if I'm going to ask you for some money for something, can I support it, that we're going to be able to turn that into actually an efficiency. Is it, at the end of the day, does it go from here, the council, to here, the citizen? Because if it doesn't get here to the citizen, then somewhere in here it's being wasted. That's what looking at our data and different times in the dashboards. And we've already seen, so far this year, in the first 3 months, we're already seeing an 8% increase in transports. So like I said earlier, we're just doing a lot of different evaluating of everything we're doing. This is one, again, when I got here, our response times were 6 minutes and 42 seconds. This last year, they were 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're sitting on the other end of 911 and you're waiting for that fire engine, those 30 seconds are going to make a huge difference. And we monitor this weekly to, are we getting it? Are we bumping our average up? Or are we bumping our average down? Our turnout time. This is, are our people sitting in the fire station, or are they running to the fire engine to get out? This is where you can make up the biggest chunk of time. And you can see there's, 42 seconds that we can make up, right? And I'm not saying, how it was before. I'm just saying putting a focus on our operational effectiveness and efficiency. Are we getting out the door? If we're not tracking it, then we don't know. We're just shooting in the dark. Budget. You guys have allowed us to have the third ambulance, right? We're looking at better ways to serve the public. Are we getting the revenue that we think we're going to get? How do we get from 1.8 to 3.5, almost 3.6? And are we tracking, and can we expect that in the future? Damn it. Sorry, got a little ahead of myself. I thought there was a different graph there. But we need to be able to track this revenue, and not just track it on a yearly basis. We started to track it on a monthly basis. We know what our busy time of year is. We know when our slow time of year, and we've now got historical data to actually, go back up to 10. I think 10 years is what we have, and so we can track that. When I come to you and ask for, hey, I need a fire engine, I better have a reason that I need a fire engine and not that I need an ambulance, right? Because a lot of times maybe I just need an ambulance. We've put the effort into our grants. I was hoping it was going to tick 500,000. I thought that would be a big milestone. We only got 497,000. But those are things, that's money that if we don't have to spend it, we can get grants for it. We can use that money in other places. And we already talked about our fire marshal. Getting those plans and plan approval online not only helps us be more efficient, but it helps them. A lot of policy. I mean, when I got here, there were policies that were 1997, 1998, and so we are in the process. And here's an example of how we can use a policy to actually make us more efficient. So, do we have people that are showing up to work every day? Does everybody get proper time off, right? And one of those is our staffing policy. And what it does is to make sure that it's fair and equitable for everyone, so everybody's getting the time off, but also make sure that we are able to protect our units being staffed and making sure that we get what we need, which is at the end of the day servicing the public. Wellness and safety. Obviously the city goal was safety. And what some of the things, a lot of people think that it's just about working out. Safety and wellness is much more than that. It's about looking at ways to reduce mandatory overtime. Like I said, when I got here, the average person was working 8 extra shifts. So they're working their 10 plus 8, which means they're only going home 12 other days. They get burned out, they get tired. So mental health is a big area that we've put a focus on. We've got 1 and we've sent in 3 more to our peer support team, which is just somebody who's got a little extra training, but he's still a firefighter that can help people in their time of need before we get them to other places and to get them other help. Every fire station has a gym. There was 1 when I got here, and we put a focus that it does help relieve tension and stress. It also helps them get stronger for their job. Then I talked about mandatory hours. When I got here, we had 15,000 hours of mandatory hours. Okay, this past year, 3,300. Right? That means that people are still working. We're still covering our fire stations and our engines. They're just not being forced to work when they don't want to. That, again, helps with, it's not something you would normally say in wellness and safety, but it does make a difference. Picture, Counseling Team International. This is the group that we've partnered. They're the leader, industry leader in Southern California. And so we're going to have tiers of the mental health professionals. We have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. And then what it allows us to do is integrate into Riverside County as part of the regional group. So if somebody has a very bad traumatic event within their fire department, we can send our peer support teams to help them deal with it. And that way the people who are in that fire department, they're a little too close, and we can bring outside objective trainers. We've talked about I just had our first meeting for our FEMA grant in our annual physicals. So identifying things early. Hopefully nobody ever has anything, but if there is, we identify it early and we get them the help they need. This is probably one of the things that really amazed me when I got here. You can imagine we go to a fire, we have a set of turnouts, we get wet, we get smoke and carcinogens on them. We go back to the fire station, you take them off, and then you get a call an hour later and you got to put them back on in the same condition on your skin. You just showered and cleaned up, and then you go into somebody's house with these products of combustion on you. So one of the first things I did was get them a second set of turnouts. So everybody has a second set of turnouts. So you get wet, you get carcinogen on you, go back, you take them off. We have a special washer and dryer that we wash them in, and they get into their second one. Their second ones are clean, they don't have any of those carcinogens on them, and then we send the other ones tested. That whole process is now normal for Cathedral City Fire. I've already talked about the hazmat IC. I believe keeping our people out of harm's way is a really big deal. And the way we can do that is arming them with the knowledge of how to deal with these high-risk, low-frequency type incidents. Fiscal responsibility, right? I mean, I come to the council meetings, I hear the council where you're spending a lot of money. So what are we doing? I've already talked about the $497,000. 273,000 were in year-end purchases. We had things like the shelf life for a piece of hose is 10 years. We had hose that was over 20 years. And why that is important is When's it going to break? When's it going to blow, right? And so part of my overall evaluation, where were those things that we needed? Unfortunately, in this day and age, we wear bulletproof vests and ballistic helmets and all those things. Ours were 6 years out of date, right? We bought, I think it was 25,000 in those. So we took a real heavy look at what do our people need, not just because they want it, but because they need it. And we've been able to do that. Overtime hours, right? When I talk about not only fiscal responsibility, but operational efficiency, overtime hours is one of them. There's a lot of misnomers that, firefighters work too much, don't work enough. Where's that balance? We took a look at it. We've already talked about the mandatory, but we've decreased it by 12%. So it's looking at, I talked a little bit about the staffing policy. It's how all those different things work together. One lever is not going to get you everything you want, but when you start pulling multiple levers, that's how you keep that cost down and you increase the resiliency of your workforce. So ambulance billing. One of the things, I'll give you a quick example. When we do our own billing because of our ambulance program, and we looked at it, I said, well, how come we're not getting a reimbursement rate? Our percentages are low. And it was as simple as going through the process and realizing with automation, you send things up to the cloud. Well, what if it doesn't come out of the cloud? And we found that, and right? So through efficiencies and auditing our processes, we've been able to take our per transport, as well as some other things, but per transport from $488 a transport to now we're getting $737 a transport. And this goes back to that dashboard and the other things that we're using to identify these. It's not just one thing. It's constantly auditing, looking at it, and evaluation, so that we've had comes up to a 51% increase in the per transport. We've talked about the engine versus ambulance. $1.5 million versus 400,000. That's a big difference because our numbers will show you that we need transport. We do really good at getting a fire engine out there or getting an ALS resource, but we need an ambulance. And that's really, as you're aware of with Measure W, that's the thing we're looking at. So moving forward, we're continuing to evaluate our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. It's something that I believe we need to continue to look at. We need to continue to evaluate. Just because, do I really want to do another fire department strategic plan here in the next 6 months? Probably not. But guess what we're going to have to do? Because what our strengths were back then and what they are today, they're going to be different. Same with our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. So we have to continue to do that. And we will continue to tie it in to what the council's wishes are and tie them into your goals. So what I would say, where do we go from here? When I got here, one of the things that I shared with everybody, and it's a mindset I tell everybody, is what our goal is to be the premier fire department in the Coachella Valley. So it's Cathedral City. Everybody's following Cathedral City because we're on the forefront. And so that's when I lead, or my vision, that's how I see it. We still have to follow the 7 pillars. It doesn't mean that we get to do whatever we want and we can have whatever we want. We still got to be efficient. We still have to be fiscally responsible. We still have to do those things that the 7 pillars kind of identifies, and that's why I believe in them, because they stand the test of time. So where do we go from here? We talked a little bit about the dashboard. We still have to create accountability. We have to make sure that what we're doing, and that includes me, we're getting what we think we're supposed to be getting. Leadership development. This is, I've got a couple options, but really investing in our people to get that next generation, right? So that we have people at multiple levels that not only have the opportunity to advance, but have been trained to advance and understand what it means to be a leader. Community feedback. This is something, how do we know how we're doing, right? We have our evaluation, which was, did we give the person the right drug? Did we get there at the right time? But what is the customer? Because they are a customer. What do they think of us? What do they think of our response time? What do they think of our treatment? How did they feel? And a lot of this is feelings, right? When you're in that time of need, how do you feel? Right? I've sent it to the council at times where we get feedback. Oh, they calmed me down. They made me feel. Because I will tell you, half of what we do is make people feel good. We are in the feel-good business. Sometimes we do it with medicines. Sometimes we do it with treatments. Sometimes it's a helping hand. And so we have to get that feedback from the customers and decide, are we doing a good job or not? Technology is changing so fast. Last year, we were able to hire a data analyst, and he can do stuff with AI and different things. And and there's so many opportunities that we have to use that technology, especially when we're looking at the tight dollar. So, with that said, my 2 weeks from today, we will go through our formal evaluation for our accreditation. You've heard me talk about it for a year and a half. But we've got to do a 4-hour presentation that outlines everything we've done. And that sets up those standards, best practices that, again, when probably everybody in this room isn't here, it will still lead the fire department in the city in the future to be able to take care of the community. With that said, I'll entertain any questions.
That was great presentation, Chief. Thank you very much. Just one quick question. In reducing the overtime 12%, what does that equate to dollars? Do you have that?
I don't have that because it's total hours, and it would be dependent on rank. So obviously a captain is more. If that's something you'd like me to look at, I can absolutely.
I was just kind of curious because it's all about dollars and cents.
100%, yep.
But just a comment on the teen certificate, teen cert. I think that is just really, really awesome because these individuals will have the opportunity to live here and work here and stay instead of bringing it from outside in. So, and as far as the cadet program, when it first started, I think council, we all asked for it, but it's really working out well too. So with that being said, great job, very, very good. Council, I don't see any names up here, so. We have a system here, How about you, Councilmember Lamb? Go ahead.
Very much for this comprehensive presentation. It was brilliant. And I have many comments about it, but I want to focus on the emergency preparedness because that is, that is my bias. But the bottom line is empowering the community to be as resilient and resourceful as they can is really important, especially in light of all that's happening in Florida now. I mean, I listen to the news and I think about how in a terrible shape these people are by not evacuating, per direction from the community and from the city and city staff. But those people that, are not in the worst part of it, they are absolutely on their own for 48 to 72 hours. I mean, it's such a huge commitment, and the fact that over the years that we've had steady increase in emergency preparedness attendance, so those folks, in their neighborhoods, have the ability and the resources to help themselves and help their families and help their businesses. So thank you for spearheading that and making it happen. And the first time they did a presentation, it was Delatorre, and he gave the bilingual presentation at St. Louis Church, and it was just brilliant because that community really appreciated, and they got their buckets, and they are ready to go. So we don't know how it will parlay into actually, that they can recoup losses or be able to be resilient on their own, but they have the tools to start thinking about it and protect their families. So thank you, really. My hat's off to you. I appreciate it.
You're
so
welcome.
Much.
And I think what you said is the key piece. We have to start, right? We have to start. And if we don't start, we'll never get, what is the journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. And that's what we've done over the last 18 months. We've started the journey. We need to get better. We 100% do. So,
Councilmember Gregory.
Thank you. So thank you, Chief, very much for the presentation and for all the work you've done. I don't know if I can focus on one part because you covered so many important areas, but I did make a little note. I wanted to echo the same thing that the mayor echoed. What really struck me was that all of the parts are important involved in the community, the preparedness, but the movements that you're making to involving the youth in your cadet program and your CERT program, they make a lot of sense. In the CERT program in particular, one of the issues always was that you had a little CERT cadre trained, but they were usually retired people, and after a little while that they either weren't around anymore or they weren't physically able to do it, and so you didn't really have anybody, and it seemed like we were missing out on the groups that had a lot of energy and time, like our teens. So I'm so happy to hear that you're working on that because they can develop skills. Some of them they're at the point deciding what they want to do. They may want to continue to develop those skills. Hopefully they'll stay in our community. They may become young working adults, but they'll still have those basic skills. So those types of things are just brilliant. And of course, as someone that's a fan of process, everything that you went through, where you're actually from the training to then that leading to acting positions and promotions, to evaluating the equipment and having schedules and ways to determine in a preventative maintenance kind of way what needs to be done before it actually breaks or fails in an important crisis. Those types of things. I'm so happy to hear that you are continuing to develop those and bring that type of, I guess, scientific approach into what's happening inside the fire department. And public safety traditionally operates behind a little bit of a veil of secrecy, sometimes, and that's sometimes that's needed, but also, and it's also maybe to maintain a level of confidence, but sometimes that is a problem because if there aren't deliberative methods being used, that veil can sometimes hide that. So I congratulate you because it's not comfortable to do that, to sometimes take down some of that veil and to get rid of some of those. We'll just figure it out as it goes because we're rah-rah, and actually turn where you can that into more deliberative and scientific methods as to how you're approaching those. I think that is true professionalism there. It will always provide better service and will always end up being fairer and really what the public expects. So thank you for updating this, and thank you for also, being very candid that you still have a ways to go, and some of these programs are still in the beginning stages and will actually be developed much more. So I am encouraged to continue to see what you and your department can continue to do for Cathedral City. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And one thing it's not me, it's them, yes. Right? It's the people, it's the men and women. We've got, some great young men. That's why I said the future is bright. Because these kids I say kids, I've got kids older than them, right? But they're enthusiastic. They want, we've given them a taste and they want it. They want to make things better. And to me, that, just give them a little bit and they're gone. That's the exciting part for me. And to your point, half our cadets came through the CERT program. So it paid dividends. Thank you.
Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the great presentation. I'm sure it took a lot of time, but I'm sure it took a lot more time to actually develop and do everything you have. I don't know how you sleep, but it was full of absolutely incredible information. And thank you for doing what you're doing for our department. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, how do you determine the response time? How do you track that?
So we have districts within the fire. We've got Station 1, Station 2, Station 3. When the dispatch comes in, the closest unit goes. And so it's from the time the alarm goes off That's called the get out time. So alarm goes off, you go from let's say the kitchen to the engine and what they call wheels rolling. So now you're rolling. That's the get out time. Then your driving time, which is once you start rolling till when you get there, and you take those two together, and that's your response time.
Okay.
And it is an average. We were actually talking about it yesterday. We can break these down by district. So obviously, if you're at Station 2 and the call's across the street on Ramon Road, that response time's going to be a lot shorter. One of the things that we're going through that the accreditation is going to do it is we have what's called a standards of coverage, which says if you are here, the fire station, and you're within this circle, that our standard to get to these different circles, if you will, like a bullseye, right? The further out you go, the longer, but it creates a standard. So then we will be held to that standard, and on a monthly basis, we will be evaluated to that. And that's what the evaluation team, they're going to look at that. Is it realistic? Can we meet the best practices in the fire service to keep those, at the end of the day, our job is to get there as fast as we can.
Thank you. Next question is, you showed in a graph the amount of revenue for 2024. Is that an estimated amount for the 2024 that you're looking
That's
at?
final numbers.
Oh, for the fiscal year?
Yeah, for the fiscal year.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. Now, when you talk about overtime, you had about 10,500 hours. Some of those hours, are they also for our firefighters when they go fight fires, or is it just local?
No, so we look at anything that creates overtime. It could be workers' comp, it can be FLMA, it can be sick leave, it can be vacation, it can be special duties. So that's what if we send the engine out of town, if it goes to Beaumont for a fire, they reimburse us that amount of money. But we still count the hours as part of that A to Z, everything. And when I talk about data in the future, we will need to carve that out, because there's a certain amount that there is the firefighters' benefits, right? It's their sick leave and vacation. Well, we can carve that out and say, okay, well, that's we don't really have a control over that. They're allowed to take it. Now, workers' comp, right? What is causing our workers' comp? FLMA. That's one of the things that we don't have a whole lot. The federal government says you qualify for this, you get that. And then, so looking at those and subdividing those even further is really where we've got to look at it moving forward.
Now, with all the wonderful things that you're doing for the department in developing it to becoming a better department, what do you feel right now is the biggest weakness that you can work on?
I think it's getting people to the hospital. I mean, I could tell you we need some equipment. We need to really train our people. Those would all be things. But if I really look at my job as a fire chief, is to make sure that citizen gets to the hospital as fast as possible. At the end of the day, we can do all this other stuff. If we don't get people treated and we don't get them to the hospital, then everything else doesn't matter.
Okay. Now, talking about emergency preparedness, I attended the emergency preparedness that took place at Agua Caliente, and I was really impressed by your staff, how well it was presented, and also not just that, but just like you have mentioning, there was a lot of Spanish speakers that attended, and your staff also did it in Spanish. And I was very impressed, because sometimes the language skills and the words that you must use to translate certain, you can say, professions, and when you talk about fire preparedness and emergency preparedness, you have to use certain languages, saying certain words. They did a great job explaining it and making it really easy for the residents to understand, and they did a great job. Now, I know that with everything you're doing, all the amazing changes and improving the department, I know that you're getting a lot of pushback, and I appreciate that you are standing up and doing what's best for our city and for your department. And one more thing is a testament to what you're doing. One of my former employees for Tortillas had a medical emergency 3 weeks ago. Your fire department, they called 911. The ambulance showed up within 3 minutes. And guess what? This lady speaks zero English. And the staff did speak English. They transported her to the hospital. She's back working, doing great, and she's extremely thankful and absolutely more gracious for pretty much saving her life. She would have definitely died if you guys did not get there on time. So she's very thankful, and she's probably will be attending the pancake breakfast. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Then that's a win. That makes everything that I, honestly, when I hear stories like that, that makes everything worth it. To hear that once, because that's how we have to do it. We have to do it one person at a time, one patient at a time, one family at a time. So thank you for sharing that. I'll share it with the...
She will come and probably tell you her own story, but she's very pleased and, of course, grateful to be alive and to everyone that took care of her.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to tailgate on that a little bit, just recently there was a fire on Pueblo Trail, and it was a young family, and I think they were 21, 22-year-old with a baby. They left some food in the oven, and it caught fire. They lost everything, all their belongings and everything. And the owner is actually a local businessman in Cathedral City, and he was on spot, and he was just saying how professional and caring the department was with these young individuals. And actually, they're staying. He's putting them up in a hotel right now because they lost everything. But it was a great job. I think it was a pretty bad.
It was. I know the one you're talking about. They did lose everything.
Yeah.
And there's small things like we have these cards, right? It's a $250 that we give out to everyone and get their necessities, right? And I don't want to overplay it, but they lost everything. Because imagine any one of us, we just lost everything that we had, right? Yeah. It's a big deal, and so we really try to put the focus on it. I know the battalion chief, because I was made aware of it, and he said, yeah, they're going to go, there's not a whole lot we can do, but try to make that transition as seamless as possible. It's still going to be bad, but try to make it as seamless as possible.
So it's tough physically and mentally on your team because they see things like that. They got to take it at heart. But I just wanted to let you know they were very appreciative too. So
thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anything else?
Oh, I have one.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Now, when I first came to council, I was very much against having our own ambulance department, and it was actually we did a study session in which we actually talked about possibly going into and contracting with AMR. And I did all the research, and at that time, it was the best decision that we could have made. Now, 5 years later, five years later since that conversation, this department has definitely turned things around from losing tons of money, which we were losing back in the day, now, and to actually breaking even or making money for our city, while also providing top service for our residents. So thank you.
It's a win-win. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Public comments?
I don't have any request to speak forms for this item, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to provide public comment, please raise your hand.
Okay,
No
seeing
hands.
none, we're recessed till 5:30. Thank you.
She's bringing up a new one. Yeah, he sent me a picture. I know.